feeling umbraged today?
So, before we start off, Uncle, your what's that? It has been settled, the legal cost and disbursement cost that you have to pay, isn't it? How much is it?
Yes. Now today is May 12th. On May 10th, the court notified that the costs and disbursements asked by the Prime Minister of $129,327.22 will not be reduced by a single cent.
Oh, so how much have you raised so far?
So far raised about 65,000 plus as of midnight yesterday. So have crossed the halfway mark with about another 63,000 or so to go.
Do you foresee able to raise this amount?
If you had asked me this question last night, I would say, well, hopefully, slowly, I think with people's continuing support, we'll get there. But now you ask me, there is a problem because shortly after midnight last night, I've been banned by Facebook from sharing in any Facebook group. And this morning, I've been further banned by Facebook from sharing anything.
Okay. Hello, Helen. So I hope that before that, is there any time frame in which you have to pay up this amount? It has not been settled, right?
Yeah, I have no idea. That is a legal question. I really don't have an answer to that. Yeah.
Okay, I hope you can manage to raise this amount. So there are a lot of topics to talk today, given that we just had the Parliament sitting yesterday, 2 days of Parliament sitting, both days reaching to from afternoon all the way to 9 o'clock, debating over 3 bills that will be passed. So we start.
Yeah, okay. And since we're talking about live parliamentary debates,
Yes.
Terry, you remember a few years ago,
Yes.
the Online Citizen and Marua, the Singapore Human Rights NGO,
yeah.
when I was then the president,
Yeah.
we organized a forum
Yes.
on why parliamentary proceedings were not telecast live in Singapore. You
Right.
remember?
Yes. In fact, I wrote an article on that subsequently, 10 reasons why Parliament not live.
Yeah, excellent. And if you go back in history, many years ago, there was a time when parliamentary proceedings were actually telecast live,
Yes.
but only for a very short while, and then it was not telecast live anymore. I think that must be like maybe 10 years or so ago.
The common saying of why the telecast started was because the establishment wanted to disgrace the opposition parliamentarians, showing their poor performance in parliament. But contrary to what they expected, people were amazed at how parliamentarians like JVJ, Cham Sitong performed, and subsequently, without anyone knowing why, when the live parliamentary session was taken off.
Yes, and actually, if I remember correctly, one often cited reason as to why parliamentary sessions could not be telecast live was that it will affect the parliamentarians because they will be thinking more of looking good and playing to the gallery.
Yeah, playing to the gallery. So, another reason is also there is not much there will be not much people watching watching the live session to begin with. So there's no point broadcasting or showing a live telecast of the parliamentary sitting. But if you have monitored the number of people watching the parliamentary session, you're talking about probably 20,000-30,000 people, including TLC, including like media outlets like ST, CNA, and also MCI's own website. So it's totally different from what they have said, that no one is interested in parliamentary sessions.
And like what they used to say in Chinese, 我们全世界最高薪水的议员呢，很怕因为他们不会做演员吧？
也不是说不会做演员是说他们很多人讲说他们怕被拍到睡觉啊。
拍到睡觉啊？OK 啦，so 现在okay, now that we have live parliamentary sessions,
Yes.
I notice most of the people are no longer sleeping anymore.
Okay, well, we won't want to say that they have been sleeping there. We're just saying that no one is caught giving an impression that they are sleeping. Yeah.
So maybe one good thing to come out of this parliamentary live telecast, at least from the perspective of the government, is that it makes them look better, no? Because you don't see so many sleeping now, right? We should have done this long ago.
I don't for the population, yes, of course. In fact, we have been many of us activists or parliamentarians have been asking for live telecasts, but the Ministry of Communication and Information has been very apprehensive in allowing that. For a couple of years we have been asked. In fact, TOC offered, say we can live stream on behalf of FCI. No reply. Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you look at other countries, do most countries telecast their parliamentary proceedings live?
Yes.
Okay.
In fact, I did the article to list number of parliaments that parliaments around the world that live stream their parliament. They do it through various ways. Some through radio, or very few through radio nowadays. But some relatively poor countries, they would use through radio. They would go through their own website. But majority nowadays, they go through two other mediums. One is through Facebook. The other is through YouTube. Because all this to the government is free resources. You don't have to spend any money to archive the video. The video is there. The public want to see the parliament sessions, right? Just go to the YouTube channel to go and see all the past records. And for Facebook is to reach out to the public, because if you're not broadcasting through the TV per se, and you're using a website, very few people will realize the existence of the parliament website. But to many people, they use the social media, particularly Facebook, to get in touch with their friends of current affair, and they just have to go and like this parliament page, and they would be directed to the live stream. So it works to the effect of the benefit of the governments.
So over the years, a lot of people say, when you do, you don't have live telecast and you have post, videos, it can be quite selective because you maybe only get to see the right things that you want to hear or see.
That's one of the criticism we have in terms of allowing media to decide what to cut out from the whole session, because without a live stream, the public have or a full record of the whole session. The public would not know the sequence of how things transpire. The media might play a particular clip, but it's not in sequence. It's more. It might show that say a particular minister has won the debate, for example. But if you were to look at the whole session, the minister might be just putting on grandstanding to act as if he won, but in reality he didn't.
So on that note, why do you think a few days ago the restructuring of one media company, the press conference was telecast live? because normally all this corporate restructuring, the press conference is not telecast live. Why do you think they did it live?
I think it's an irony that a media company has decided not to broadcast live its press conference, given that it has all the resources in its arsenal to do that.
So you are saying no choice because if you are a media company, you don't have live telecast of your restructuring, then die already Then we're talking about the Umbridge incident, right?
Yes.
By the way, you like my You like my you like the T-shirt I'm wearing or not? Can see now. Stand up for you. Can see now.
You can see, they can see. Yeah.
If you like, you in the chat you say something lah. Say something.
So on the Umbridge incident, right? So we will go to what Bobby asked in terms of the building out of SPH. We won't go directly to the SPH. We would talk about the whole incident per se. Okay, I give Uncle Leong to say first. What do you think about this decision for Singapore Press Holding to cut out its media publication, its media business, due to reasons of it generating lesser revenue over the years and becoming not sustainable, and therefore turning into a not-for-profit entity, and at the same time seeking government support and funding?
It's becoming the biggest joke in the world in media circles, because here you have a case where our press freedom ranking is already ranked 160th, you know, right?
Yes.
So if you have watched the press conference and all the statements, even after that in the media, the reason to do this, one of which has consistently been repeated, is to ensure editorial independence. So you don't understand the meaning of the word conflict of interest. I mean, if the government funds media that's already ranked 160th, what kind of media independence are you talking about?
Again, we have to clarify for the viewers, right? 160 refers to the environment. It's not referring to the media per se, or the mainstream media. It's talking about the media environment in which the media outlets operate. So the point, but your point still stands in the sense that how can we expect a media outlet in Singapore funded by the government still, I wouldn't say maintain, to expect any kind of editorial independence, right, after it gets dependent on government funding?
Exactly. And let me just give
in 160 ranking.
Precisely. And let me just give you one example of media independence. When I was asked to pay 133,000 damages, when it was announced, it was all over the news, right? And then after the people crowdfunded the full 133,000, there was absolutely no news at all, even though the whole world was reporting, like in 50 over countries, right? And now, 2 days ago, when the costs and disbursements were finally confirmed by the court, that I had to pay another $129,327 in costs and disbursements. Again, there's total silence in the media, right? So that is, I say, a classic example of what media independence is in Singapore.
I think in the mainstream media.
In mainstream media, of course, the whole world was reporting, all the news reporting, all the social media were reporting, the online citizen reporting.
Correct. So, my view on the transfer, right, I think it's unfair for two parties. One is to the shareholders of SPH, and also to the public, because the public. First on the shareholders, I believe the shareholders were never consulted on the move.
Yes, I believe so. So I mean, this is another classic, example of how good corporate governance is arguably in Singapore.
Yeah, because let's talk about when the people who brought the shares, say 10, 20 years ago, when there's no property element. So people brought the shares with the mind of course, of investing, and also with the thought of supporting the national media, local media. So I brought the shares because I trust that this local media is able to operate.
And of course, it had a almost monopoly. So how does a monopoly not be able to operate profitably? Yeah.
Correct. And now, right? Given that the moment, right, SPH announced that the media business is going to be cut out, you have the minister from MCI immediately coming out to say that government would fund this media. It means what? What does it mean? It means that the ministry or the government has already come to terms or decided things with the SPH management. So where is the shareholders in this? Why is the shareholders not told of this decision or consulted? So like we seek the acknowledgement of the shareholders that okay, our media business is going down. It will be a burden to your. What's your thought? Should we cut this media business out? And once there's agreement, then we would go to the ministry and then ask, can the ministry come and help us? Why is it the situation now that the government and the management of SPH decided before the shareholders are being consulted and just simply make an announcement that we're going to do this? And the only two decisions that the shareholders of SPH is going to decide is the name of the listed company, because SPH would be transferred to the media entity, the not-for-profit entity, and to decide how much assets or how much so-called assistance the SPH, the listed company is going to give to this CLG as a company limited by guarantee. So it seems unfair for the shareholders in this sense. Then you have the public. The public would be now, in the past, we all criticize that SPH publications are like government mouthpiece. You are like biased, etc. But that's to it, because this is a private entity that's operating using its own money, generated through advertising, generated through subscription, and that's its business. But now you are talking about having using taxpayers' money to fund a publication that is eventually very likely going to be a government mouthpiece. So you're telling the people that their money, their taxpayers' money, is going to be used to fund the state propaganda.
So like one friend said to me jokingly, or maybe the name should change to SPH to Singapore Propaganda Home. Singapore Propaganda Home, SPH. Yeah. My friends jokingly say
okay.
So like you said, if you are a shareholder, you probably are quite umbraged, because let's look at the numbers. Okay, so essentially one way of looking at this, if you're a shareholder, is okay. I have this part of the business that is actually still making money. Of course, over the years, it's making less money. It's still making money, but I'm going to hive it off, carve it out, make it non-profit. So as a shareholder, I say, is that fair to me in a sense? Because you take away the part that is still making money, you make it not profit. So I've lost part of it that was actually making money, although it's making less money, by the year, right? So the other problem now is we are also talking about how much of the support will be given by the company to this new not-profit. So this is like adding insult to injury. First you will take away the part that's still making money. Then you say now the remaining part, the shareholders still have to give some support to this part that is gone. So shareholders, I'm happy I'm not a SPH shareholder but the price went up a bit today. After the drop that day of 10% when this was announced.
On Thursday, on the day of the announcement, the trade was suspended on the morning itself. So the closing on Wednesday was $1.79. When the stocks, the trading reopened on the following day on Friday, it dropped to $1.52. I believe on Monday it went up to 1.57.
Just now I just saw it's 161.
161. But if you were to compare before the announcement, it's still a drop. That's my take on that.
So too bad if you are a shareholder of SPH, I have nothing else to say to you. Maybe you should just feel umbraged.
But half a year ago the shares was $1.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you should make your money and run it, or even now you. But of course, see the problem with all these numbers is how many people actually bought it at $1? You know what I mean? Like when you look at share prices, it's gone up so, but then you will think, how many people actually bought this at that price and got out, or whatever. It's like high flux, of course, it's totally different.
And its high was about
story,
$4.
I don't remember, but I, for one, I have never bought a stock where I can see that the core business is something arguably lesser and lesser people believe in. I mean, if you have a media that arguably more and more people don't believe what they are saying, right? As you say,
yes.
Terry, that this is saying only the right things. Then maybe that's not the kind of company that you want to invest in. And I certainly, I've never purchased SPH shares before in my life.
Oh, okay. Never.
Yeah.
Oh, but
SPH REIT have but not SPH shares SPH REIT the real estate investment trust. Yeah.
So SPH REITs, it's all this like
it's separate.
managed.
It's totally separate company. Yeah.
Oh, but you're aware the SPH listed company, although it's ditching the SPH, right? I believe the chairman Lim Mun Yang has said that this listed company will be turned into a property company. So you're talking about all these assets.
Also, maybe you what you are saying, maybe it will end up two companies lah. One called Singapore Propaganda Home, the other called Singapore Property Holdings or something lah.
No, so it's SPH REITs. You have this listed company that has not been named, and then the CPLG.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, whatever lah.
Yeah. There will be there's definitely going to be a EGM, right? I suppose it's not AGM. There should be a general meeting.
Wow, I like what this James just put there, although I don't quite understand what he's saying.
What?
He says shareholders get the jumping tail of the lizard, but the lizard is divested. You know what James talking about?
That's something that's not wanted. So the tail is something that's not wanted, but then you get the main body, which is most important, to be divested somewhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you are lizard family, you
no that
umbrage that.
Let's see. Okay, and again on SPH, I think it dwells down, again, personal opinion, it dwells down to management. It dwells down to the operation. The SPH publication, the media business, is still making money, but not as much as in the past. And it has been a downward flow since I believe in the
actually, and it did a lot of cost cutting already.
Cutting out of staff.
It did maybe at least 2 retrenchment exercises. I met one of my favorite long-time SPH journalists who used to cover sports one. His name starts with J one. I don't mention his full name, but so many people, because I was hosting SPH Chinese radio talk show host for 3 years plus, and the former president of SPH was my classmate, and the former chief editor of SPH was also my classmate. I have been quoted so many times in SPH publications. I think at least 200 published letters in the forum pages, and maybe more than 500 quotes in the media. So actually, as I meet all these old friends, it's quite sad to see people who literally spend their lives building up our main Broad Street media, only to see them go quietly into the sunset, in a way.
Well, so while the journalists would still be able to keep their jobs, but given that they are now operating, they would soon be operating under CLG, which is divorced from this listed company entity. They hardly can get any kind of support, because say example, if the some journalist or whatever report something that was really good, important, but the person get retrenched or fired, there's nothing that the shareholders there and the listed company could help, because it's to the mercy of this council that's looking over, or the chairman, who is a former PAP minister, Common One, decision to whether or not anything could be done.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you, because all this smells so much of conflict of interest, lacking of independence. I can only say good luck to my friends who will be transferred to the new CLG. How you affect your daily lives, how you affect what they keep calling editorial independence.
No,
it remains to be seen.
I wouldn't say what they call is independent, but the kind of editorial independence that they are proud of.
Okay.
Anyway,
I can tell you, the whole of Singapore is very proud of this umbrage incident at the press conference. It was reported in one of their articles that more than 200,000 people Googled the word umbrage, after the press conference. It's now the most popular word, probably in the English dictionary, right, in the last week in Singapore. So, actually, to be honest, I've never seen the word umbrage in my life until a few days ago.
And it seems to be that umbrage, this word, has been the most searched word on the day itself. A lot of people also, because like
according
you,
to that newspaper, more than 200,000 people searched the. Okay, let me. I'm not trying to be funny, but just since you're talking about editorial independence, I just cite you another example. You see, following the umbrage incident, an apology was made. So I read the article on the apology. Firstly, the headline does not mention the word apology at all. He talked about, a lot of people are, Googling and all. Okay. Then I had to read 10 paragraphs down before I came to the 11th paragraph, when finally I saw the word apology. And the apology did not even mention the name of the MediaCorp journalist who asked the question. Right? So not only I found it strange, but a lot of net citizens were saying, this apology don't sound really like an apology, because you don't even mention the person who asked you the question when you say you want to apologize.
I don't think that's a question. It's more like the SPH CEO said this apology, make this apology, and throw to SPH and say, hey, you go and publicize for me. Rather than coming out and like what other CEO in other countries would do, think about, I'm sorry. But what the apology that this CEO took was make a statement. I'm not sure whether it's made by him in the first place. Throw it to its publication and ask ST particular, say this is my apology, and then just.
I think maybe it's the political culture in Singapore, I mean, how often do you see an apology, by a politician, right? You know what I mean? And of course, the most recent one on the what you call the trace together, say, I will take full responsibility. But then what does taking full responsibility mean?
Yes.
I mean,
are you resigning? No,
nobody knows.
If you're resigning, I think you're sorry, but no, you're not resigning as far. I'm not sure what you talk. So I think that's it. That's on SPH.
Oh, so somebody was writing something else about general. Of course, I wrote a poem, right? And the poem starts with, 3-star general, umbrage, I need 2 striped corporal, so cannot umbrage. So if you cannot sleep, you can go and Google, find my umbrage poem. A lot of people say it's very funny, but of course, it's written in English.
Right. Yes. So we move on to the next thing. Last week, are you aware? Last week there was an announcement of a 88-year-old male who was working as a cleaner at the airport being diagnosed with COVID infection. So a lot of people did not take notice in terms of the numbers or whatever, but they took notice of this person because this senior 88-year-old is still working in the airport as a cleaner. You want to comment on that?
Well, I think so often when we have foreign visitors, they will ask, how come you have so many so old people working as cleaners, right? And then when they ask you how much is the pay, it's even more shameful, embarrassed for me to say as a Singaporean. You understand that even with the progressive wage model now, their basic wage after all these years it has been increased to something like 1,200 plus a month only, and that's including your employee CPF contribution. So you take away the typical 20%, you are looking at take-home pay of a cleaner maybe around just $1,000 dollars. I remember one time one of the international news wires came to Singapore to do a documentary about the elderly poor workers in Singapore. So I actually spent a whole day with this documentary team going to places where you see very very old cleaners. You see where the people who collect cardboards and tin cans, where they go to sell this, for very little money. That was one of the most I would say emotional days of my life, because although many of us see old people cleaning table at toilets every day, it's nothing like when you actually engage them for one whole day.
Yeah,
let me tell you a joke about cleaners because I think so far the discussion has been very serious.
And also trolley collectors.
Okay, for a long time, which type of worker the pay was the lowest? Airport trolley workers.
Right.
Yeah. At one time it was like 600 plus or something a few years ago. But I think either progressive wage model has been increased but I'm not sure how much. But I think it's still around, if not lower than the. Okay, let me tell you the joke about cleaners. Now, we always hear the rhetoric. No, Singaporeans don't want to be cleaners. Then you say, then how come there's so many elderly cleaners or Singaporeans everywhere you go, right? Okay, right. Then somebody was asking. Then what about are there any unemployed cleaners? So at one time, 1 year, when I look at the unemployment rate figures, the highest or the second highest unemployment rate was cleaners. So I was very puzzled. How is it possible nobody wants to be a cleaner, and yet the unemployment rate was the highest or the second highest among all the job categories? Then I gave it some thought. I said, maybe I think I discovered the reasoning. You see, foreign workers over the years have typically kept the wages of cleaners down, right? So if you are a cleaner and you lose your job, it may be even harder for you to find a similar job and the similar pay as a cleaner anymore, you see. And that's why maybe at that time, right, the highest or the second highest unemployment rate was cleaners.
Okay. But what...
Now, have you ever wondered when you go to a hawker center, of course you see cleaners coming to clean your table and all that, right? But if you go to the hawker stalls, right, you find that nobody employs hardly anybody employs an elderly person or a young person as a helper in the hawker store or something. So I talked to them. Then I discovered that the stalls themselves are not allowed to employ foreign workers. So unless you are the food center or then you can employ foreign workers.
Hawker centers are not allowed?
No, the hawker center can, but the actual stall itself, they cannot employ a foreign worker. I mean, you cannot apply if I'm running a hawker store. I cannot apply for a work permit to employ a foreigner.
I see. But But let's not look at the profession. Let's talk about the fact that 88-year-old person still has to work, and particularly in such a taxing job, taxing job. Why is it that, from your opinion, why is it that seniors have to continue working? Because clearly in this case, I don't think any minister would dare to come out and say this is active aging. Or say cardboard collecting, for example.
For exercise, cardboard collecting for exercise.
Yeah.
No, I think it's quite obvious. Simply because for everyone who is collecting cardboards or even becoming a cleaner, right, for exercise or for active aging, for everyone there must be 10 other who is simply doing it because they need the money, lah.
But the government always say that they would have all type of schemes and social welfare organization helping such seniors. Why is it that in despite this type of promises, we still land in such situation where seniors at this age still have to go and work?
Okay, if you look at the definition of the public assistance scheme, all right, there are maybe about 5,000 people in Singapore under the public assistance scheme, which I understand pays them about $500 a month. Okay, so the first issue, of course, is is $500 enough? But the biggest issue is the criteria in order to qualify for public assistance in Singapore is really extremely strict. You have to be destitute, right? You have to be no family members can help you at all, right? So I think I always say, let the numbers do the talking and let your legs do the walking. If you are watching this program, the next time you see a elderly cleaner, just ask the person, hello, how are you? Good morning. Is it okay? May I ask you, why are you still working, at this age? And you get the straightforward answer. No need to go to Parliament to debate or write long story. Right? Every day you just need to talk to people.
On whether or not on why they have to still go and work.
Yeah, why you still? I'll tell you a story about a cleaner. I volunteered to do financial counseling, so maybe 20 years or so. So there was one case I remember very vividly. I was talking to a cleaner who was 74 years old, and so I said, Uncle, why do you have family? He said, yeah, I have a daughter. Then I said, why do you need to be a cleaner? No, I don't have enough money. And then he told me this story was fascinating. He was actually suggested to him to apply under the Parents Maintenance Tribunal to get money from his daughter.
Yep.
And then he was telling me what happened. In the end, the tribunal awarded him $50 a month from the daughter. So that means the daughter must be very poor also because the amount is so small. And then he started to cry, and this 74-year-old man said to me, since then I've never seen my daughter again, because of the Parents Maintenance Tribunal of $50. I guess it severed whatever relationship they had.
Because to the daughter, she might have thought that it was the father who knew her situation and yet went to apply for this, and the $50 is you mentioned is what the tribunal could squeeze out of the daughter. I must tell you another very I wouldn't say interesting or funny but very sad story. I came across this case. This person was in IMH, okay, and then it was suggested to her that she sell her 3-room HDB flat in order to fund her medical expenses. All right, and this was a single person who apparently had no family or relatives. But then something happened. This person had a friend who then came to talk to me and said he doesn't think this is right because the person is IMH, and then
you know, in Singapore, you cannot pay, then of course the medical treatment is free, right? Because you know you got Medifund and whatever schemes, and this is IMH, right? So why make her sell the, you know, her HDB flat to pay for medical expenses? So this friend, actually, after talking to a few, you know, people, actually applied to the court to object, right, to the sale of a HDB flat. And I still remember what the court said. Of course, this was told to me by this person. I wasn't there, lah.
Yes.
Said the judge said, "Oh, she's in IMH now, but I think she'll really be very mad if ever she recovers and discover that her flat has been sold." Right? So to cut a long story short, as it turned out, despite the application, suggestion to apply to, it was denied by the court.
Kay mentioned that that the cleaner told him that that the cleaner asked that he do not return the trays, because if he did, if the table were to return the trays, or as diners return the tray, right, they will run out of job. Do you think that this this logic is applicable? Because that's what a lot of people think when they go visit hawker centers. It's not that I don't have the hands to go and take my tray, but look at all this auntie uncle. If everyone were to collect the trays and then put, of course it will not be the case where all the auntie uncles will be out of job. There will be still a couple that has to be at the collection center to take, but definitely there will be certain cost cutting effect. Since that I don't have to collect the trays anymore, then I will fire some of them to save my cost.
This seems to be quite a common perception, but I think it's unique to Singapore, you know, because nobody will think like this. I think in most other countries, because in the first place, right, elderly person should not have to work as a slog, as a cleaner, if I pardon me, like a slave, right, for very long hours for very little pay.
In any first world country,
in any,
especially in any
no need to be first world country, you know. I mean, I must have traveled to like you know, maybe 60, 70 countries in the world, and for those of you who have traveled, you tell me where in the world, as many of my foreign friends say, nowhere have I seen in any country, you know, whether it's developed or undeveloped or developing or poor, you never see so many elderly working as cleaners for such low pay. This is unique, I think, to Singapore.
So people will ask, some people are asking, why is it that these seniors have to go for this type of job? I think it's very easy to understand why. Most of people of that age come from an era where you don't even have a primary school education. So for many of them, they start off young with manual labor and maybe some skilled work. But to today, what kind of work in Singapore that can pay you enough that doesn't have to do with knowing English, having the basic education, at least to secondary? And if you're young, you still can do manual, but a person who's 60 and above, 50 and 60 and above, how is it possible to find any job that's willing to employ you at that age?
Yeah, I agree with you absolutely. I mean, even you work in a fast food place, you need some very basic, you know, English, right, in order to do that. Let me tell you another, you know, funny story about cleaners. Many years ago, I was at a food court in Tampines, you know. So then I struck up a conversation with a cleaner, and I talked to him, right? And then I found out, he told me that he was originally from China, and he's a permanent resident now, working as a cleaner, right? So I said, how did that come about? So I said, anyway, he told me his wife, who's also very elderly, is also a cleaner, right? And then he told me his daughter, right, who was originally from China, is also a cleaner. But of course, his son-in-law is a Singaporean, you know. So I was quite amazed. That was a case of a family where the wife the wife's mother, the wife's father, all three were cleaners. In fact, as I asked some more questions, I discovered that the husband, the son-in-law, were actually a cleaning supervisor in a food court.
Okay.
So I mean, the first thought that came to my mind is, of course, this was quite some time back when I think around that time we were giving something like 70 over thousand, granting 70 over thousand new PRs in a year. So at that time I was wondering to myself, I mean, how many PRs do we grant to cleaners?
One point I would like to highlight on the social welfare thing, where a lot of people do not qualify, they have to come to a point of destitute. I believe we mentioned this session before, that the social welfare officers, right, don't realize one fact, or the ideology that certain seniors have, that when they pass away, they would want to have a bank, I wouldn't say as an amount of saving that's meant for arranging one's funeral, the afterlife. So if they don't want to be in a position where there's no one paying for the afterlife affairs.
Like they say, 棺材本
Yes. Chinese say 棺材本 the money meant for the funeral. So the senior would have probably 10,000, 20,000 in expectation that this money, right, will be used for the afterlife of rights. But to the social welfare officer, right, that is money that you can use.
So you are saying that even a poor elderly person wants the dignity of having a decent funeral. So in fact, I don't know now, but many years ago when I was doing financial counseling, of course the criteria for like assistance is secret, even mostly secret even to today. But at one time I found out that one of the criteria was that you cannot have $4,000 in the bank. So in your situation, if the person has $4,001 because he wants a decent funeral, then he may not qualify for assistance. And I just want to clarify, when I talk about being destitute as a criteria in public assistance, that's the public assistance scheme. It's not, I'm not talking about the ComCare scheme.
Yes.
ComCare scheme, you know, it be destitute one. ComCare scheme, there can be many reasons that you have financial difficulty, you need financial assistance, they will help you. That's ComCare. But let me just look at the numbers. The last financial year, ComCare only gave out $151 million to 80,000 beneficiaries.
Right.
So it's not and I've been doing financial counseling for like 20 years, and it's very funny, since earlier we talked about the media independence. I mean, every time you see a story, typically in the media about people being helped, offered financial assistance, is invariably, almost never do they say exactly what is the actual amount of money that they are getting. It's as if like I mean, if I'm a journalist, I would say this is the most important thing I should be writing in the article, right? But this is also often the thing that is always most of the time missing in any article that you read in the news about helping a person who needs assistance.
Other than the for funeral rights, you also have this thought, especially for I think the Chinese populace, right, that you want to leave a asset to your descendants, which is why people my view is, this is my view of why people take so much in terms of buying a property, that the property can be passed to the son, daughters, siblings, so that there's an asset over. So to not to have any money, right, that you can pass down to the next, right, it's quite to some might feel quite shameful in a sense. So to expect a person, my understanding on the ComCare, right, that your income cannot be more than a certain amount, meaning if say you apply to ComCare, you want to get for $500, but you are having some monthly, you have some allowance from, let's say, your kid, or for some well-wisher $100, then they'll be only giving you $400 because you already have that amount. They cannot give you more than what you have. and your bank cannot be more have a certain amount. I believe the amount is about $10,000.
Yeah, I think one of the problems with our financial assistance scheme is they are not only restrictive but very rigid. For example, like one time, the criteria I believe was like the per capita household income cannot be more than $650 a month or something. Okay, but what they don't look into is, you may have a family where the per capita income is more than $650, but then you have one person who is a person with disability. You have one person who is very sick and critical medical treatment. Then you can't simply apply this $650 criteria. You need to be a bit more flexible. I must say that in recent years they are becoming a bit more flexible, but still arguably not not enough flexibility. I just came across one case. Now, I cannot verify the information that I'm going to tell you now, but I came across this case. This person is unemployed because I think he has some medical or physical disability, So, now under Cashew Life, he asked to pay, right? So, of course, he applies to say, waiver. No, I am unemployed, I have no income, I have a physical disability or medical problem. So, can I apply for waiver of Cashew Life? And he was rejected. And he told me the reason he was rejected was because when he was very young, his father actually applied for a private shield plan for him. So obviously one of the criteria may be that, if you can afford to pay a private shield plan, then of course I cannot give you a waiver for Cashew Life premium, no matter how badly off you are, unemployed, medical problem, physical problem, right? But then you have to think along these lines. The person cannot give up his private shield because he already has a medical problem. Right? So what the father bought for him has to stay there by hook or by crook. You cannot use that as the criteria for rejecting his Cashew Life premium waiver.
So there was one suggestion from who? From Kirian, talking about that it would be better if there's a clear topic on the what we are talking. What's your reply on that?
Well, there are always pros and cons, I do agree with you that if we had told you a topic in advance and we told you 3 days in advance that today at 1 p.m. we're going to talk about this, probably more people will be watching and more questions will come, right? But then there's also maybe a reason why we have this free for all kind of thing, because I was a radio talk show host for 3 years plus, Chinese radio, right? And then it's not just on the radio. I think it's pervasive in Singapore, in the schools, in the workplace, everywhere. We seem to be obsessed with structure, right? You must have topic. You must keep within the topic. You cannot stray outside of the topic. I think that, in a sense, stifles our creativity, our ability to innovate, and freedom to think and to express ourselves. So, Kiran, that's the reason why we are doing it this way, right? Because everybody else is doing the way that you are suggesting, and so we want to be different, right? We want people to be free to ask anything, right? You see, the problem with a lot of these TV shows you watch, after a while become very boring, because if you know how it works, all the questions were planned in advance, and they're all on the same topic. And if you go to Parliament, you can see now when it's live that many of the answers were also reading from the script and pre-arranged. So you have pre-arranged questions, pre-arranged answers. I mean, what is life if you are constrained in practically everything and so many things that you do? I, for one, would prefer ask anything, right? Because when you ask anything, right, we can only tell you from our heart, right? Because there's no way for us to prepare the answer for you. I hope you understand and appreciate our view on this.
Yes. So okay, uh, on online, there's a person who wrote online from Online Voice, right, who mentioned that not all seniors are not educated. Is it? It's not true that all our elderly people today only have primary school education. So we take the 88-year-old for example, right? 88-year-old means that in 1952, this person would have a secondary school education. 1952 in Singapore, most people is kampong.
Yeah, 1 year before I was born.
Yeah. So if we are not talking about people who are in the 40s, 50s. 40s, 50s, by then most of them have secondary. Like my mom is primary school, my father is secondary. Yeah, graduate from secondary. So that both of them are 60, around 60 odd. So prevalently at that era, that's the average education: primary school, secondary. To have a university graduate there, you most likely this person is either a CEO, manager, CEO, or already retired.
But this is what I do apologize for answering this way. This is sometimes we call the straw man argument, right? Oh yeah, there are not many people who are not educated, no, right? Yeah, but there are some people who are, right? And if there are so many people working as cleaners, then there must be a lot of them who are not able to meet the educational criteria for any. Of course, there's a lot of. The other reason is this: there's a lot of age discrimination in Singapore.
Yeah.
You're 88 years old, try applying for any job other than a cleaner. I tell you, it's likely that you will be rejected, right? So it's not so much whether there are a lot of people educated, a lot of people uneducated. What I call the straw man argument. It's just it's a fact of life in Singapore. It's very sad, right? That this sort of thing is happening and continues to happen.
Yes. Did you watch the Parliament session yesterday?
Yes.
But this was quite late. This was at the part where Desmond, I believe was MND Minister Desmond Lim, presented the COVID.
Desmond Lee,
Desmond Lee presented the COVID. I think that was quite emergency like that. Bill where the government will come out and help those construction companies.
Yes.
Yeah. So I felt that Jamus brought out the point really good in his speech on debating this bill, because he mentioned that why not use this pandemic as an opportunity for Singapore's this whole system to change, because for so long, especially in particular construction, it has relied on cheap foreign labor for so long that they can't do anything else other than asking for cheap labor. And of course, to go the extreme is that we have to deprive them of that. Totally, it should just immediately turn to local labor, which is not possible. But his point is basically why not make use of opportunity to transit, of course, slowly transit to that, and he basically highlighted this point, which we were mentioning in the previous session, that the reason that we are facing this all these issues that there's been popping up, whether is it COVID, the COVID rush in, that a lot of people cannot find jobs. Seniors are underpaid. All this thing dwells to over reliance on foreign labor.
Yes, I agree. You absolutely. I mean, you go to any other country, you go to Australia, you go to Taiwan, you go to Hong Kong. Right? How come all the construction workers are locals? They are citizens. Why is Singapore so special? And if you add in the total cost of a foreign worker, the construction worker levy, and everything, it's not cheap, right? It's not really that cheap. Okay, so we have so we have to like Terry is saying, we have to gradually rid ourselves of this I would say unreasonable argument that Singaporeans don't want to work. I mean, if you don't start to pay more, if you don't start to make the working conditions better, how do you know whether the Singaporeans will work or not? Take the security industry, right? Singaporeans don't want to work, right? Right? But now you see a lot of elderly Singaporeans are working. Why? Because the conditions are getting better. Even though it's still 12 hours a day, typically 6 days a week. But the pay is slowly getting higher, right? So you have to tweak the system gradually. You cannot, like Terry say, keep on. My excuse is that Singaporeans don't want to work, and therefore I need to continue to help companies, and therefore I need to have cheap labor, and therefore I need to have all these foreign workers coming in, and then I let COVID spread, and then at the end of the day, we're doomed. Everything is connected, right? Right? Yeah, you have to slowly try. You cannot, have this, one set mind that cannot miss, cannot lah, nobody wants to be a dishwasher. Okay, look, I talk to a lot of friends, okay, who run restaurants.
Yes.
Right. Now they can get dishwashers, right? Because
you
know how much they're paying a dishwasher nowadays. Okay, $2,000. So
right.
If you pay enough, the conditions are good enough, right? Look at any other country in the world. How come all their dishwashers, all the construction workers, are all citizens?
Locals.
What's so special about Singapore? Or what's so special about Singaporeans? Or maybe the specialty is Singapore politicians.
According to statistics, in Japan, the average wage a construction worker, we're talking about construction worker, not supervisor, earns per month about $3,700 Singapore dollars. Yeah. So if you're paid $3,700 a month, right? Would you go and be a construction worker? Wouldn't you be going to a construction worker? Of course, then they will say, would you want to then pay a lot for your HDB flat? But then, as we have discussed previously, the HDB flats cost nowadays. Why is it 500 over 1,000? It's 500 over 1,000 is because you have a significant amount of the price factoring the land cost price. Peter was asking who would take up the construction manual labor if the world. No, but you see, that's the thing. In your whole economy, can a society, a country, have the entire population? So let's say this whole cohort, the cohort of this 30-year-old cohort, every one of them, they have a minimum education of university, or if not tertiary, and all of them will take up jobs that is of management or consultancy, admin. And so what would happen to the jobs that is on manual labor?
No, this is I think this is the most flawed argument, no? Right? For years, you keep on hearing the same rhetoric. Oh, these are jobs Singaporeans don't want, right? Then you ask yourself, you mean how is it that there's so many foreign workers who are working as waiters in the hospital and as administrative staff. You mean these are jobs that Singaporeans don't want? It cannot be. So you cannot have a foreign labour policy that says, okay, I give you a quota for S-Pass, I give you a quota for work permit, right? Even for those sectors and those jobs that Singaporeans want to do, you have to, like other countries, you must be specific. You must say, okay, as it stands now, is construction and marine, right? That Singaporeans, very difficult to find Singaporeans to do. All the rest, all the admin jobs, the retail jobs, okay, it's not that Singapore don't want to do. It's just that the pay is simply too low and the conditions are not, appropriate, right? In order to make a decent living in Singapore.
And Singaporeans are smart, right? If you're given a job offer, you're given a job offer, the same price. Say, example, $2,000 a month. One is a 9 to 5 job, 5-day work week, in an aircon room. The other is a 6-day work week, 12-hour work shift. Both are the same job. Both are the same pay, but different working condition. Which job will you take? Of course, you will take the better one. It's a matter of whether or not you're qualified to take the better.
But you see, these arguments again, in my view, somewhat flawed. Look at the numbers. Okay, you have 95,000 unemployed residents. Okay, And then you know the SG United Traineeship and Job Growth Scheme, they have created like 100,000 jobs, and these jobs pay from as little as $1,000 with no CPF, no benefits, no nothing. Even for mature workers over 40, the lowest pay under the this SG scheme is $1,400. Okay, so how is it possible? They are getting 100,000 people to work in such low pay jobs, right? It's not that when people have a choice, of course they will be choosy. But right now it's COVID-19. Okay, most people don't have a choice, and you can see from the numbers they are taking all these low paying jobs, even though there's no guarantee that they have a job when they finish after the 6-month traineeship. And it's a job that has no CPF, no medical benefits, nothing at all, because government is paying 80% of the wages.
Correct. So
I like this one, Douglas.
Yes.
It all boils down to a minimum wage, right? If you have a minimum wage, okay, right, then all these, shall I say, straw man arguments don't hold water, right? Because if there's a minimum wage, then you can tell what are the jobs that Singaporeans will work and what are the Singaporeans that jobs won't work. As long as you don't have a minimum wage, right, we're all just talking, we smoke in the air, right? Or are there a lot of people? Is it just a few people? We don't know.
Former NCMP In Jin Jong wrote an article, I believe was last year, was it early this year? I don't. About this point in terms of if you pay construction workers high, your construction costs will go up as well. But that's the rhetoric that they're trying to play. But if you were to look at the other countries where we have been saying, Australia, Japan, their construction cost is not much different from us. Reason why? Because the profit that the construction companies are getting. I gave an example yesterday when I was looking at the parliament session. My father has been working as a construction worker prior to his retirement. 20 over years, pay never increased. And he was just simply loyal to his employer. But the employer, over the years, it has been changing from like property bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Because the thing is, the contract, the cost is always increasing. However, the wage that you're paying for the workers are actually getting lesser. So of course your profit will be higher. So I cannot accept the rhetoric that if you pay the lower the workers higher, the construction costs have to go up, because the cost has to be reasonable to the buyer in the first place. You cannot just set the price because your operation cost is higher. You just go and demand a higher price. The market would demarcate how much the reasonable price would be.
I agree with you 100%. I mean, look at let the numbers do the talking, right? Right? If the construction costs in other countries were the same as here, why is the pay so low? The bottom line is simple. Why is the pay so low for so many people, right? We have, if you count full-time and part-time workers, we have 300,000 of them earning less than $1,500 a month, including employee CPF contribution. I mean, where do you get a country where everything is so expensive and so many people earn so little? Uniquely Singapore, only Singapore.
So Peter asking, if there's a minimum wage, what amount would you suggest for? If there's a minimum wage in all other countries, minimum wage is not in. Okay, of course there's two types. One is industry specific.
Wage, yeah.
Then the other will be the minimum per hour. So I don't care what other jobs you're doing. Minimum you have to pay that much. So what I believe we have been asking for, most people have been asking for, is a minimum hourly wage. Then so it would also apply for part-time workers as well, not just full-time workers, because full-time workers and the PWM basically applies to the, if I'm not wrong, applies for the full-time worker.
Full-time worker. Part-time worker, if you don't have minimum wage, you die because the progressive wage model doesn't really help you. Oh, I see. One IB has come into your chat.
No. So we are now taking questions now. Do you have any questions that you would like to highlight? If not, yesterday we also the Parliament had a discussion about the lorry. This is also on the same topic, where Amy Cole noted that if increased safety measures such as ferrying of banning the use of lorries to ferry workers to their work site, or to engage buses or hiring additional person to ferry the workers would incur construction costs. Incur costs which would eventually have to pass to construction costs. And WPMP, Workers' Party Member of Parliament for Sengkang, He Ting Ru, noted that you cannot have this type of comparison. It's a flawed argument to say that that is not worth spending more to ensure the safety of others, because this clearly does not apply to the ordinary citizen like you and me. If we were to in the construction industry, we will use lorry to do that, we'll be fine, because it's not allowed.
This is probably one of the reasons why no Singaporean wants to be a construction worker, because it's not safe to going to and coming back from work. It's not just the pay, it's the conditions, it's safety as well. Okay, so if you neglect such a safety issue that keeps coming up over the years, right, then no Singaporean want to be a construction worker, right? It's not just the pay, it's not just the conditions, it's safety as well.
Amiru asked, you said that you have not answered how much the minimum wage.
Okay, I would say for starters, say $9 an hour.
No. I believe before we set a figure, the first thing we have to do is to set what is the minimum living standard that the citizen should be. So there's a minimum standard in terms of how much you have to spend a month. If you were to set a family, let's not use singles, because singles spend a little. Let's say you were to have a family, two kids, pay for mortgage for a flat, say 3-room flat. How much would you minimally have to earn in order to do that, in order to achieve? So why is it, and that goes to the reason why I believe that the government refused to set a minimum wage, because in order to establish a minimum wage, you have to first establish what's the minimum wage, minimum spending one would have to maintain one's life in Singapore.
So you are saying, Terry,
Yes.
that the argument is maybe I cannot have a minimum wage, because once I talk about minimum wage, I will talk about minimum survival amount that a person or a family needs.
In other, so this what IMF would have will be, that's the poverty level.
Yeah, we don't have
we don't have a poverty level.
So you are saying we don't have minimum wage because we refuse to talk about poverty level.
So yesterday we published an article. No, we published an article. This guy, on Monday, Heng Swee Keat replied to NCMP Leong Sze, noting that 50% of Singapore workers, I think workers in Singapore, don't pay income tax. 50% of Singapore workers don't pay income tax. That would mean that they earn less than $20,000 a year. So if you were to put out, that means that they earn less than $1,500 a month. So say if the poverty level, right, is putting at say 1,400, that means your if we were to come to this figure, 1,400 for a month, that's your poverty level. That means that close to 50% of your population is living near the poverty level. That would be crazy, right?
Yes, absolutely.
If that's the case.
My answer to this, perennial debate is no need to be like an academic, figure out what is the poverty line and minimum whatever. Just every day try to talk to one low wage worker. Okay, every day try to talk to one low wage worker, and you just ask the person how much you getting an hour, and you meet a lot of people who get $6, $7, $8, and you just say if there's a minimum wage of $9, what do you think it will mean to you? No need to have all these sophisticated studies and debates, right? Just go and talk to one low wage person, right? Wherever you go, right? One a day will do.
And most importantly is the market will work out itself. Eventually, market will work out itself. It's not to say that that minimum wage will eventually form the wage that everyone get.
Yeah, precisely. The market will work itself out, but there's a very significant factor that affects the wages market, and that is our foreign labor policy.
Yeah.
Right. If your foreign labor policy is such that we're probably the only country in the world, a developed country, where a foreigner can come as a tourist, apply for a job, and then stay when he gets one. So that depresses wages for a lot of Singaporeans. A lot of Singaporeans are underemployed, okay, unemployed. When they lose the job, they cannot get a similar job. I mean, just last week, I was in a Grab, and then when you take a Grab, they can see your name in the app, and so the driver say, then he tells me he was a manager in precision engineering about 5 years ago, and then he lost a job to a foreigner, and then after that for 3 years he was doing like 2 jobs every day, working like 12 to 15 hours. And what were the 2 jobs this former manager was doing, right? He was a general worker, helping to stack chairs and tables, and another job also general worker job. And he started driving Grab about a year plus ago, and then COVID-19 hits. So you have so many people suffering, right, because of our labor policies. I tell you, the fundamental problem, right, with jobs and wages in Singapore, we have a labor union that historically has always been headed by a cabinet minister. Of course, the current one, lost in the election, so he's not a minister. But find me another country, because there's an obvious conflict of interest. You cannot have a labor union that is headed by someone from government, right, whose job is to protect workers. And the numbers are so startling. Look at the number of low-wage workers. Look at the number of unemployed workers. So sad,
On that point, we would jump to the challenge that K. Shanmugam issued to Leong Man Wai. Are you aware of the challenge?
Oh yes, debate.
The debate over the SICA, which is basically the free trade agreement with India.
Hey, you and I wrote about SICA when you first joined TOC about 10 years ago, right?
Yes, when SICA was first
yeah,
signed.
of course, at that time, very few people paid notice to SICA because not so many people were affected by foreign workers, resulting in the unemployment or underemployment or low wages.
And this goes to the whole crux about SICA is really about the issue about transparency. The government has always said that this free trade agreement benefits both India and Singapore. But to a lot of Singaporeans, they find it hard to see how the ordinary Singaporeans are benefited. Because what the free trade agreement promises tariff-free trade and also free movement of professionals. So we do see a lot of professionals coming over from India, but at the same time, do we also see free move any Singapore professionals going over to India to assume positions as what the free trade agreement promised? Because it seems from the Premier Face's view of the matter, it looks like a one-sided affair rather than one-sided benefit trade agreement rather than a mutually benefiting agreement. And if the government can easily convince the Singaporeans that CECA benefits Singapore, if it goes just be clear with the figure. How many Singaporeans have travelled over to India to assume a position, take up PR? I don't know. Is that PR for India? I'm not sure. But to assume a position, to take up a position of a higher role, and on the contrary, how many Indian nationals have made use of CECA to come over Singapore and assume positions? I think just on this itself, it would show clearly, and of course also the government could clarify on how much investments in Singapore has attracted through CECA, and on conversely how much investment has Singapore made in India. Right.
Well, I always say that the numbers do the talking, right? Even after COVID-19 now, I estimate the percentage of non-Singaporean in the total workforce is about 44%. And at its peak, right, I also estimate many years ago, at one point, the percentage of non-Singaporean in the workforce was almost 50%. So, no use talking about, debate lah, this and that, but just look at the number, right? So it's so sad, right?
In terms of the labor statistics, is it?
Yes.
And I think, like you mentioned, we have raised this issue many years back, at least 10 years back, on the issue of the free trade agreement, the terms of the free trade agreement. But I believe it's only recent that people realize, because their own livelihood is being affected.
No, that's why freedom of expression is so important, right? You don't wait until the problem is affecting you very badly and affecting a lot of you, then you say, we should be talking about this now. We should have talked about this, starting from 10 years ago, right? Yeah, so that's why freedom of expression is so important.
Yes, let me see. We don't see. Based on the current policy, do you see any hope for future generation in the job market? Future as in able to be employed, is it?
Okay, let me put it this way. The future is not bright, it's bleak. Because as long as the policies that are causing all this, I call very sad statistics, do not change, the future is very bleak.
It's funny that Singapore refused to adopt the same kind of foreign labour policy as the developed countries, where instead of giving by default companies, right, or you have one local, I give you 3 quota. You have for this particular industry, okay, I think it's service, you have like 4 or 3, construction 4, for example. It becomes that you already have a fixed percentage of foreign workers based on the number of locals you hire. On the contrary, for developed countries, the policy is only if you cannot find a qualified local to fill up the job. And it's over a span of time. It's not like the job bank that we have where you just throw the application there and if no one responds, and therefore you are entitled to hire someone.
The job bank doesn't have statistics on how many of the jobs actually go to Singaporeans at the end of the day.
So it ought to be that the company have to prove that, say, I need a specialist on this particular technology where Singapore don't have. Okay, then that's justified. You go to the whichever expert you can find who is foreign, pay him as much as you can, and come here and help us to promote this particular technology, and not where you make no effort, or you make a simple effort of just listing this particular job in the job bank, or no one respond, and or you think that this person is not qualified, and you just say, I can hire a foreign labor. I think this will not fly in any other first world country.
Yeah, precisely. I mean, the quota system, as Terry has mentioned, is flawed because we fail to recognize that the playing field is not level for Singaporean workers vis-a-vis a foreign worker. Foreign worker no need to pay CPF. The employer saves, employer CPF contribution of generally 17%. Okay, male foreigners don't have national service reservist liability. Okay, female, especially work permit foreign workers, don't have 4-month maternity leave problem. Okay, and turnover, foreigners are normally on 2-year contract, so whatever you do to them, you torture them, right? They'll stay, right? You don't have a turnover problem. Okay, so in a sense, Singaporean workers are being severely discriminated relative to foreigners because of these 4 factors that I've just mentioned, that the playing field is not level. When the playing field is not level, you cannot have a quota system, because then most employers will say, I might as well max out my foreign workers quota, because after all, these 4 factors I've mentioned works for me if I employ a foreign worker. So I'll employ as many as possible. Doesn't matter whether I'm able to get a Singaporean or not.
On Peter Lim's question, is there any alternative to the foreign worker quota system, especially in the construction sector? What we said just now also applies to, say, construction sector, where you would say, I need say 1,000 construction workers. 1,000 construction workers, only say 30 people sign up from Singapore. I can't get anyone, and therefore I would apply all these people coming in, rather than based on the quota. You have to first prove that you need so many people in the first place. And the point about proving, right, is also important, because as what James Lim, Associate Professor James Lim pointed out yesterday, it because the foreign labor is so cheap that for a simple job you can hire 3 person in the performing that task in the least efficient way, and it's still cheaper. It is still cheaper than buying a piece of high-tech equipment that can do this faster, better, because simply in terms of matter of cost is still better than it's still cheaper doing it that way. So it's more of, you have to justify why you need to have all this labor. And on the other side, people have to also be aware, for in the construction industry, that all these workers, they are, other than having to pay all this levy, all these workers, when they come, they pay a significant amount of agent fee. So a construction worker could come and have to fork out, say, $6,000 Singapore dollars, 6,000 Singapore dollars to the agent, which might be shared with the construction company that are bringing them in. So imagine if, say, we are saying $5,000 for each construction worker. This construction worker brings in 1,000 workers. Even before the construction begins, this construction company, if all the money is to the construction company, this construction company would have earned $5 million just from this agent fee itself. So to allow the construction companies, right, to set how much people they need, right, it might be a bit dubious. Yes.
Yeah, the whole system is convoluted. You can have so many people making money that they should not be making, I would call, sinful money. And let me tell you this story. Many years ago, I was in Manila in the Philippines at an ASEAN meeting, and then the Labour Secretary of the Philippines was speaking. So during Q&A, I asked the question, and I said, Your Excellency, I understand that many Filipino workers in Singapore, when they come to work, they work for like 6 months without any pay, because the agent makes the bulk of the fee that they have to pay, and so they work for 6 months no pay. And the Labour Secretary answer was something along the lines that, that is a problem with the receiving country, Singapore, because we only the sending country, right? So if they allow this policy, it's legal, it will happen. And the funny thing is, then a person from the Singapore embassy was sitting next to me because the same country will be sitting together, and then he stands up and reads a statement. He said, we are very strict on especially domestic workers. Last year we prosecuted so many employers for ill-treating their, and we now have a requirement they must go for training and all this. And when he finished, I said, and because of all these new requirements, now they work not just for 6 months without pay, but for 9 months without pay. You see, like Terry says, you have to look at the system at every stage of the system to figure out what is it that is causing the problem. And if we fail or we refuse to do that, then this problem goes on forever. It doesn't go away, right? The future is not very bright. It's very bleak.
Or back to Peter Lim's point, it's in that example, right, 30 to 970, yeah, it's the case because no locals are willing to take up the job. But then that's why, you see, it's very hard for us to say, to take one topic and then say this is the topic we're going to talk, because at the end of the day, you will realize that all these are interconnected. When we talk about social welfare, when we talk about labor rights, when we talk about manpower policy, when we talk about press freedom, everything is connected, because if people are not able to exercise their rights, able to speak out, including the workers, that should be union rights. There will be no solution to everything, and we will just follow status quo. Okay, but going back to the point, if the construction workers are paid enough, like say if there's a minimum wage being implemented, would you not think that those people who are not employed would go and take job? Because according to statistics, there are a lot of people who are unemployed or unemployed. So these people will take out a job. And again, the issue with the construction industry today is that they are very inefficient, not that safe, and therefore to require 1,000 workers, that's based on the current model. But in the new model, we are talking about significant less workers that's needed. So reduce number of construction workers needed, and also better working condition and higher pay would probably encourage more locals to take up the profession. Yes.
I have a suggestion, okay? Let's start the debate all over, and let's concede right from the beginning that Singaporeans do not want to work in the construction sector, and Singaporeans do not want to work in the marine sector. Let's concede that, okay? Then everything else, right? Don't try not to come and say, oh, all these other thousands of jobs is the problem is because Singapore don't want to work. Okay, let's start the debate and start from the beginning. Say, okay, we give you these 2 points straight, right? Construction, marine, no Singapore will work, because it's pointless. Year after year, the debate goes, the same rhetoric over and over again, right? The situation doesn't get better. It's not about every sector. It's not about every worker. It's about all the other workers, right? The hundreds of thousands of other workers, right, who are not in the construction and marine sector, who have lost their jobs, who cannot find a similar one, whose wages has been cut, etc., etc.
So someone said about Singapore's top education system. I think that don't equate to say you are being given the top education system and therefore you shouldn't be going to blue collar jobs, because as the Chinese say, 行行出状元, all professions have their own experts.
They know, but now the rhetoric is that you don't need a degree, ma?
No, that was quite some time ago. I think that was by Taman, right?
I can't remember. Quite a number of ministers say, no, no need a degree, ma.
It's not about making assumptions prior to a discussion, but it's because you would have how to say.
No, I'm not trying to say make an assumption. What I'm saying is that too often
ignore the straw man.
Yeah, straw man, right? People will talk about all the things that actually don't really matter. right? We should talk about issues that matter.
And Philip Lim pointed out to the right thing. Gig work is the best job in Singapore, because you look at it. How many people are now in either the doing Grab or doing the food delivery service? Say a technician say in a factory would earn say not more than $2,000 a month, and you're talking about a 6-day work shift, 12 maybe not 12 hours, about 10 hours plus and minus your like preparation, etc. 10 hours a day, and you consider the amount of time you spend doing the work. And then if you were to do it in a gig industry, spending the same amount of time, you probably earn 2-3 times more than that.
Yeah, Philip, I tend to agree with you generally, because if you have 300,000 full-time, part-time workers earning $1,500 and below, including employee CPF contribution, then arguably most people are better off, as a gig worker. So I saw you just blocked the IB, is it? Because the IB, can the other people see the things that they are writing?
Yes. Oh no, they can see. Yeah.
They can see.
Yeah.
So you can see the same IB keep on posting, rubbish and nonsense every minute or so. Yeah. Anyway, I see you have blocked the person. So. Wait.
So Stabilo Peng, right, said, but sooner or later the demand and supply law will come in and lower wage. As you actually pointed out exactly the thing. Why is it that the delivery service people, right, their pay is so high? Because, right, and Grab drivers.
Because the demand has gone up.
No, it's not the demand part. It's that it is mandated that foreigners cannot take up the job. Foreigners cannot
you
apply.
hit it right in the nail, Terry.
Foreigners cannot apply to be a food delivery serviceman. Imagine if
the supply does not have the foreign worker factor. That's the key.
If the foreigners, right, are allowed to come in as as gig industry worker, you would then expect the whole wage, right, to plummet, because the people are willing to pay work for less, because even if they work for less, they will still earn enough or more than what they would get in their home country. But because now the situation here is that foreigners are not allowed to go into this type of gig industry. The wage is protected, and the market was set how much they will be able to pay. So the company earns a profit, and the workers are still earning a profit, and the people are willing to pay at that amount to obtain the service. So there's an equilibrium here in terms of the supply, the demand, and then the viability of the business. Whereas in the situation where the supply is a unlimited supply, so there's no bottom limit in terms of the cost. Bottom limit in terms of the cost. You can just the sky's the sea is the limit in terms of how low the wage can go, because there will always be people willing to pay for that amount. Or work for an amount, but for the locals, there's a minimum in which they can work for, because they for the effort and time they put in, right, they have to make a livelihood. So this is why the gig industry seems to be like a life buoy for a lot of the workers, because that's the only place that they can earn a living wage.
Terry, you have given the great explanation of labour market economics in Singapore, demand and supply, where the key fundamental issue is the foreign worker factor. And since you have deleted the IB, let me tell you a joke about IBs. I have allowed IBs to attack me over the years. I never bothered about them. Why? Because in fundamentally, for one thing, when you talk about freedom of expression, criticism is part and parcel of freedom of expression. But recently, IBs don't just attack me, they started attacking anyone who posts anything that supportive of me. So I had a lot of people complaining to me, you must block the IBs, you must block them. So finally, I relented. I blocked 6 IBs that I found, right, that managed to find. And I want to thank the IBs because, like many of my friends say, well, looking on the bright side, IBs over the years have helped to increase traffic for you. IBs have helped to recruit new supporters for you. IB have helped to make your existing supporters more fervent, right? And I think this is the first time an IB is coming into our life.
Yes.
Right.
IB. Internet Brigade.
So maybe now that I blocked them, they don't have income already. They have to find a new place to, like today, because before I think I never seen the IB posting in your live chat.
The issue here, right? Okay, the gig industry does help in terms of safe haven for Singapore worker. However, right, the dependence of the gig industry is unhealthy. It's the same way how young workers, right, shouldn't be looking to go and drive Grab and to earn a living wage, because while they are still young, and of course because they graduate with a good graduate in an environment with good education system, right, this person should be trying to accumulate skills and in he or her professional arena, so that the Singapore's technical expertise can rise. Can you imagine say 70% of the whole population, right, is living on gig industry, where frankly there's not much there other than able to earn enough, but there's no increase of skills, there's no increased elevation of experience other than knowing, okay, what's the best time to take order, where's the best route to go and deliver my stuff. This is not healthy for the economy, for the Singapore country, and putting aside whether how to say, in most profession, the longer you work, the higher your wage will go, because you're more experienced, you're more capable, you have testimony on how good you do your job. But in the gig industry, that doesn't work. that doesn't help individual in increasing one's ability to earn. It's a mere stopgap measure. If say you're unemployed, or you or in example, if you're a caretaker for your someone who's sick, and therefore you can't take a 9-to-5 job, for example, like that. It cannot be a solution to the labor issue that we are facing.
Yeah, Terry, you have made a very important point. I'll tell you a very interesting statistic. Before COVID-19 struck, I think the statistic came out something like 16% or something of all the private hire drivers were below the age of 30. And so then they changed the policy that those who are below 30 will not be allowed to become private hire drivers anymore. But of course, those who are already existing private were allowed to continue. So what you say is very true. I'll give you one example. The starting salary of an IT graduate, right, is $1,800. Okay, median starting salary, and that is before employee CPF contribution, right? So the take-home pay is only like maybe 1,300, 1,400. No, so like Terry says, then I might as well go and be a gig worker, right?
Yes.
But Terry said the problem is, okay, because wages have been decreased in terms of starting salaries for ITE, even for like poly or university, then a lot of people will be tempted to say, okay then I become a bird worker. I have more freedom, more flexibility, I'm earning more money now. But going forward, then you become it doesn't help, because as you get, these are all basically very fiscally demanding work. As you get older, how are you going to continue to be a gig worker in demanding work? And like Terry said, you're not acquiring any skill. And that's why you see Singapore's productivity growth over the years has been very low relative to other countries.
And and you make a mockery of our world-class education system. What's the point starting all the way to minimum ITE, and at the end of the day, you take up a job that don't require you to have any ounce of all this education to begin with. Why not just start working at the age of 15? So long I can ride a bike, so long I can use the e-scooter on the road, and take the theory test now that's now mandated, and to make a living. Anyone can do that now.
That's why labour policy, especially foreign labour policy, is so important. Because if your policy is arguably wrong, then you have all the problems that Terry has been talking about, right? And then most people say, what for? I might as well don't go to school, right?
Yeah. I think the trend has changed. It's no longer private hires that's earning a lot. It's more of the food delivery. So private hires earn a lot when people have to go to work. So now people all work from home, and they don't want to go out and buy food. So it's a food delivery. So it's always there's a demand, but it's just different sectors. Yeah, it's a really wrong start where people see that the only way out is to go into inking industry, because once you go in, right, it's kind of very addictive. You're comfortable there. You're comfortable. You think that I can have a decent living, this decent life there, and you would not contemplate of seeking another job as in the job market, going for what you have studied for. Say, example, electronics. You go and apply for work in electronics. When the starting pay is lower than what you're already earning, and it cannot fend for your family or yourself in your current spending ability. Yes. So that's on that. Anything else? I think we covered a lot of things today.
Recently you read the news that NEA is converting all its daily rated workers to actual monthly wage, right? So when you have a very independent media, of course it was glowing commentary. Wow, this is great. You help all the daily workers, right? But what came to my mind was, why did it take all these years to convert daily rated workers in a government agency? Should have been done long ago. Right. That's a problem when you don't have arguably don't have independent media, because they don't ask the question that is, I would say, obvious, right, to most people.
Correct. Sorry. I think it was Peter Lim's question. Is it Peter Lim's question on whether or not the life we would see the job scene better for the future generation? It will be worse because I think the rights, when it comes to labor rights, when it comes to individual rights, when it comes to like freedom to speech, right, you'll get worse, and you have and it's exactly what is happening here today. You have all this question about how hard is it to transit? All this company will close down because we have dived so deep. We have dived so deep into this.
We are
hole.
stuck in the quicksand.
We're stuck in the quicksand. If we were to simply just put a foot in, and people start to say, "Hey, you're going to quicksand," we pull out. There's still time for us to change our tweak our trade policy to navigate forward. But at this point, we are halfway in. We are halfway into the quicksand, and you're saying that if you move right, we'll sink further in. We don't move, we're still going in. It's just it's a matter of speed.
And so the status quo remains year after year. The rhetoric goes on. Let me ask you a very simple question. Do you want your children to end up to be a gig worker?
Gig worker.
Right?
Yeah.
If your answer is, I don't think so. No. Don't you think freedom of expression is so important? All right. We started with SPH. We go to jobs. We go to so many things. Right. The one that ties it all together, arguably, is freedom of expression, and that's why we need people like Terry Su. We need the online citizen. Right. Because without them, freedom of expression is already dying. And poor Terry is being sued for defamation, and they're asking for 400,000 damages, right? Okay,
400,
so
yes.
yeah, you know, so if freedom of expression is important to you, everything that we discussed today, every question, every comment that we have put in the chat group, right, is directly connected to freedom of expression.
Correct. It's not that we don't want to set a key topic. It's that we set a key topic end of the day.
Yeah, it's not freedom of expression.
Oh, no,
yeah.
it's not.
Well, it's in the sense lah,
it's
but
not,
it's more free when we what you call ask anything you want.
It's not the free topic. It's not whatever. It's really because all this thing end
You see, the problem with this, I was a radio talk show host for 3 years plus.
Yeah.
Okay, right, and then I used to write a lot to the forum pages to get published. Okay, a few other times. See, on reflection, the problem is this: when you prepare, then you tell yourself, oh, this I can say, this I cannot say, this I can write, this I cannot write, otherwise it won't be published. So, is that freedom of expression? The answer is no.
I think the point that the person was saying is not about that.
Okay.
It's more that when viewers view this show, they know what they are looking for.
Yeah.
But you see, that is also a very weird angle, because this show is being promoted as a random talk show. so meaning you come here, you don't know what you're expecting. So we unless there are specific topics, for example, for example, Roy Ng's show, where we invited him in and we wanted to have him to talk about CPF. So we confined the topic on CPF issues, and also of course the defamation suit that he faced. Whereas in this particular show, it's really whatever you would like us to reply, and which we can reply, and the topic, the current affair topics. So very hard for us to fix a topic.
Can you imagine a show like this in mainstream media? I mean, you know, just trying to be funny. If mainstream media had been more free and open with shows like this, right? Maybe they don't have to spin themselves off with the non-profit, you know, outfit, and maybe the press room ranking will be higher.
Yeah. Okay. Last question. Last point. So let's see. Bad Shepherd.
I see a question. Why did Facebook ban Leong? Your question is as good as mine. I also don't know why.
I understand. On Sharon's point, yes, but frankly, by having this session, right, it's already like 3 hours taken off my time to do TOC. So you ask me to prepare, right? Then I don't have to run TOC anymore.
I think to answer your question, is balanced, lah. Okay, yeah. We are trying to balance what we call depth, okay, and an open mind. Okay, depth and open mind, and it's a balance. If you have 100% depth, you have very little open mind. You have 100% open mind. You know, I tell you a funny story. One of the most memorable experiences in my life was when I attended for 6 weeks the inaugural United Nations International Leadership Academy in Amman, Jordan, for 6 weeks in 1997. And every morning, we are reminded every morning, have an open mind. And that has stayed with me for the rest of my life. 1997 to now, that's 24 years. Right? I really must thank the people at the United Nations International Leadership Academy for ingraining in my thoughts and my heart, right, for 6 weeks daily, the importance of having an open mind.
So, yeah, if you have a topic, you can come in to talk on randomly. Yes, that's correct, Chindy. You all have any topic, we just come in. Yes. So, Any closing?
Well, in closing, I
Sorry.
want to thank Singaporeans. You don't realize how amazing and historic you have been, because you have crowdfunded about $350,000 to pay for the damages and costs and disbursements, and although we still have about 60,000 to go, this is history in the making. Never before has the people in the country crowdfunded so much money in such a short time, $350,000 to pay for defamation damages and costs, because hopefully what will result at the end of the day that politicians will realize once and for all that it does not pay to sue ordinary citizens for defamation. And I hope this is the last time that any politician will sue any ordinary citizen for defamation. Thank you very much. I will be forever grateful.
I think they will still. Yes,
You mean after all this,
yeah, they still will.
right? They will still
They will.
sue for defamation.
Yeah.
I mean, already we're the laughing stock of the whole
No,
world.
if anyone were to and this is the problem running and this is the problem with running a local media here in Singapore. Independent media in Singapore. If say I write something that has some errors, right? The lawyer will say, oh, this has grounds to sue. I'll sue. Whereas for the mainstream media, if they have made any errors, say on the opposition or etc., right? They first, of course, they would have the resources to fight the suit to begin with, but at the same time, right? Let's say for the establishment, right? They will issue a warning. They will just like call them out and say, "Hey, what your reporter is doing? Why you do like that?" But they will not sue because it would give a bad impression of the publication. So
in your example, you wrote something there. In my case, I'm the first person in the history of the world to be sued for defamation for sharing on Facebook a news report from a news website without any comment.
But my opinion on that is that you were simply the chicken to cut in order to scare people from sharing posts.
Okay, I see where you're coming from. Of course, it was said that he has been a thorn in our side in a small way for a very long time.
Because if you target a politician, then people would think that it's not them. But if you target ordinary folk, right, then say people would think that anyone will have a chance of doing that. So it's in a way I think it was calculated.
So as someone jokingly said to me, "Wow, Leong Sze Hian, you press one share button, $262,000."
I think the closing, right? Let me take this chance to talk about the Workers' Party. You know, a lot of people criticize Workers' Party. You know, I also criticize Workers' Party. But you know, for politics, right? Especially in terms of Singapore's first past school electoral system, right? It's a no-brainer. You have 30%. If you take the 2011 presidential election as an example, as a gauge, right, that was a very good gauge. You have 30% hardcore PAP supporters. You have 30% hardcore opposition supporters, and so in the middle you have 40% of middle ground. You have 40% middle ground. Your battle is for that 40%, for people who are moderate. So the people who are offended in terms of opposition, such as Workers' Party, not voicing enough, contesting hard enough, it's pointless because no matter what Workers' Party do or disappoint them, they will not vote for PAP. So I don't have to bother about this 30% who's complaining. I have to be concerned that 40% do not find that I'm competitive, that I'm making a mountain out of a molehill. So and I respect that position, and this is why you need parties such as People's Voice or the really extreme parties that talk nonsense, because you use them to set to show how moderate they are. how to say trustable they are, reasonable. Imagine in the past, right? You have SDP being framed as a party that's extreme, whatever. But you come to today, you look at it, right? Compare them to the other parties that are really problematic, right? You will find that they are liberal, but they are reasonable. But if you were to put them in, if you take SDP into say the 80s or 90s context, right, they will be seen as far out extreme. So it is always about perspective.
My comment is this: the battle needs to be fought in different ways by different people.
And which
Otherwise, you will never win the war.
Yeah.
And this war is such an important one. It is a democracy war, right? This is about the future of your children. It's about future of your country.
And you're one of a kind. We all. I'm about to close the show. Then you all write all this points. It's unlikely that we cover this unless you raise this up in the next session, because we try to set the session in such that it's on current affairs. All right, current affairs. On the current issue as well, at least people don't have to be given the background as to what transpired, and so just tune in. Today we tried for the 2 hour. I'm not sure whether 2 hour works.
You mean already 2 hours?
Yeah, it's 2 hours.
Wow, no wonder I'm so tired already.
Yeah,
67 years old,
yeah.
2 hours.
Yeah, it's 2 hours show. So I think we would see whether or not 2 hour works or not, or is this the best time slot to have the show?
Yeah, you tell us is it too long, too short?
When it should be. Yeah, because we just experimenting.
Yeah. Let's have an open mind.
Okay, so thank you everyone. So that will be the end of today's session.